Good morning, everybody. It is official here. If you're seeing this playing live or later on, it is June 1st, also International Pride Month. And we'll kick off Pride season and everything Pride. I am Jenny-Jaymes Gunn, along with my show partners, Barb Bacon and Cano. Christian, Barb, how y'all doing?
Good. Happy Pride Month. Happy June 1st. Wow.
Right. Yowzer.
It's crazy. And those of us who are in North Carolina, we're going to have a hot week. So for us, right? It's going to be like 90 degrees all week.
Every day, yeah.
Woo. Welcome to
here.
Yeah. Well, welcome. Well, as Jenny said, welcome everyone to Coffee Pan Dulce. I'm Christian Cano, one of your co-hosts, along with Jenny Gunn, Barb Bacon, and Mama Ruth. We're Mama Ruthless today. Today is June the 1st, the start of International Pride Month. Is that right, Jen?
Yeah.
It's International Pride Month, right?
June's recognized around the world in all the countries that celebrate Pride, which are many. There's even an international association that more or less sets a lot of the standards, and in pre-pandemic times met somewhere around the world once a year. Okay. And so there is it's called Interpride, and so it's because of we'll talk about it later, but there's a specific reason why this is regarded as International Pride Month.
Okay, excellent. And we do want to thank those who are watching us on Facebook Live, but also those who watch us later on YouTube and Facebook. But now the thousands of people who listen to us on your favorite audio podcast platform. Jenny, do you want to do it?
We're at Spotify. For the people that listen to us on the audio podcast, we put our hand over our mouth. If you remember in January, we had the whole Joe Rogan controversy and all that. We got in the habit of doing that, and we just
so now it's just
because we don't learn many new tricks on this show. If you're expecting a super amount of intelligence, sorry, Barb, at least for Christian and I, our memberships are not coming in the mail anytime soon. So especially on a show like this, there's going to be a lot of kookiness, a lot of fun with three serious topics to start the show with.
So last week I was on the treadmill at the gym. And I was watching it, and I got to the point where we went to Spotify, and I just started laughing. I realized that people why are you laughing? Of course, I'm like one of the only people with the actual mask on the treadmill, so they really think I'm kind of a little out. But anyway, all right. So let's go. Let's go. Introduce yourself. Go around the Bird event screen. Introduce yourself and any imaginary buttons. Then we'll do the 3 current events, and then jump directly into our topic, which is why Pride Month is still needed. So let's go, Barbara, and then Jenny. Do you mind? Go ahead.
Okay. Hi, I'm Barb Bacon, and I'm a community advocate here in South Charlotte. Been a lot of advocating lately. There's been a lot of stuff going on in the neighborhood and with voting, and we've had some people moving away and parties and all good stuff. And there's another driving people to get their boosters. People are falling down on the job for boosters all of a sudden. I don't know what's going on with the numbers bouncing all over the place. And it's time to get my buttons out for gun control. It just broke my heart when I saw that about Texas and then Ted Cruz. He made me so mad. I wanted to throw something at my own television set, which would not be a good thing, but I just stopped telling us about the Second Amendment. And then the NRA has their convention, and then we have to listen to Trump. Okay, I'm done. Don't get me started because I'll go for it. I'm not even take a breath.
I'll take it. Jenny-Jaymes Gunn. I am a LGBT community advocate and activist, and also a queer, transgender woman, and sexually queer as well. And I'm involved with many LGBT organizations locally, Charlotte Pride. I've helped with Charlotte Black Pride, a member of the LGBT Chamber of Commerce, and Transcend, which is a transgender support group, and many others. If I left you off, it wasn't intentional. my brain's not on full force. I was out working all day today, and I think the sun did cook my brain just a slight bit. I also have a heavy heart because of the shooting in my home state. That's only about an hour or so, maybe a little over an hour from San Antonio, where I spent a good portion of my life. And, so I've been to Uvalde several times. I've been through Uvalde. And I know how a tight-knit, beautiful community it is. And this will absolutely scar this town for not just years, but generations. And senseless and unnecessary preventable gun violence.
Mistakes were made too.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Jen. And I'm Christian Cano. You're the co-host. My buttons are Medicare for all, healthcare for all. Now, even more, as as Barb said, Moms About Action, gun sense legislation. Please join your local chapter. They're advocates for gun safety and gun sense legislation. And of course, in my heart, Black Lives Matter for Joe Oldham, who was a guest of ours. I also want to say that we're going to salute. I'm a little off. Salute to your neighbors, whatever you're drinking today. I'm drinking coffee this morning. And we want to thank our producer, sponsor, and supplier, Manolo's Bakery here in Charlotte, North Carolina. Manolo's Biggest. Sorry, Barb, I ate the pig before the show. I was hungry. So please support your Black and brown small businesses or any small business during this global pandemic. Buy local, buy local. So Barb, I got my booster shot last week. So when you were saying that, I was like, you're right. People seem to be forgetting that it's still around.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about our 3 topics. And I've got my Pride banner around out if you see it. And then I also have a Pride flag that I was going to put up, but it fell down. So this is my Pride flag. So the next show I'll have it all fancy and so forth. So the 3 current events, if you want to comment on these, of course, on everyone's heart and minds, the Uvalde shootings, the mass shooting at the elementary school in Uvalde, Texas. If you'd like to comment on that. Second topic is Nancy Pelosi's husband in San Francisco, I believe, right? That was the city that he was in some accident. The only thing I saw, he was driving a Porsche, and I was like, how can you have an accident in a Porsche? I would protect that car. So anyway, that's I know. All right, so that's Nancy Pelosi's situation, and then I think that's what he was doing. And then the Southern Baptist Convention, there's still fallout about the report that came out about all the sex scandals and cover-ups they're doing. The groomers, the original groomers. I think we said last week's show, Jen. Those are the original groomers. So, who wants to comment on any of those in 30 seconds or less? Anyone?
I will.
Okay.
I'll just say it again. I do not understand why assault weapons are on the street. And the Second Amendment does not say that we are entitled to arms. It says the militia is entitled to arms, and it should be reasonably controlled. I don't call that reasonably controlled. And a quick aside, my brother works construction, and 2 of his construction workers have assault rifles, and he just goes ballistic. So anyway, and my question about why in the world Nancy Pelosi's husband would even be driving. Okay, if it's a Porsche, I get it, but no excuse. No excuse.
In San Francisco, you think he'd just take an Uber, right? Or I don't know. Sorry,
She's
Barb,
got drivers, for God's sake. Why is he driving a car? You're drinking, you shouldn't be driving. Yeah. So I don't know. And you would think, never mind. I don't know.
Okay.
I forgot the other topic.
Southern Baptist Convention, they released a report about covering up sex scandals for the last 20 years. Any comments on that?
I can say I'm not surprised.
Hey, that's what we said last week. Yeah.
There's a lot of things that are covered up that we don't know about.
Yeah.
We think we know about it, and they're just not talking yet. So I'm
all right. Okay, Jen.
I'll start with the Southern Baptist, because Christian and I both grew up in Texas, which there's a quite healthy amount of them. I'm shocked. I mean, I'm shocked that, especially all those really creepy youth pastors they have. Like, I have absolutely no trust in churches, but especially the SBC. Like, them and the Catholic Church,
Can't put them together.
banjos have pedophilia and sex scandals. Like, when I moved back to San Antonio, they were pretty much in the middle of the pedophile priest trials. And at that time, the Archbishop was Patrick Flores that was having to balance all this. And when all this happened, most of the trials were for grown men that were sexually abused and raped by pedophile priests in like the 50s and 60s. So they were now in their 40s and 50s. They were grown adults, and so this was in the courts then, and the hundreds of millions of dollars of payout and restitutions, and and so much, and the Catholic Church and the SBC both know they have a problem. They always have. Even the Vatican acknowledges that they believe 6 to 7% of all their priests are pedophiles, and if they openly admit that. Imagine what the real number is after centuries of cover-ups of all kinds of awful things that priests and Catholic officials have been. There's no telling what the real number is. And to me, Christianity is all about grooming and being and convincing people that they're just awful people and laying on extra guilt. I'm just like, let me tell you something.
How about Nancy Pelosi's and Uvalde?
As far as Nancy Pelosi's husband, that's just dumb. I mean, how dumb, how immature. Like, and they're not like they're 25 years old.
Exactly. They're
like,
what he's
I don't
like.
know what the age of her husband is, but I know Nancy Pelosi. I believe he's knocking on the door of 80 somewhere in the park of it. So I'm assuming he's pretty close to the same age. Especially with like San Francisco has tons of like mass transit and the little I mean, that's what they're known for, is those little track car thingies, it just all kinds of, and ride share. I mean, one of the ride sharing companies started in San Francisco, for God's sake.
Exactly.
You're literally, and it's a compact city for people who've never been to San Francisco. It's about the size of a postage stamp. Like, you can blink and miss the city. It's that small. There's tons of people. It just, there's no excuse for that. Like, if you're in your 70s or 80s and you're going out ripping through town drunk driving a Porsche, you deserve to be Madison Cawthorn or worse. Like, that's the epitome of stupidity and privilege.
Exactly.
So whatever happens to Pelosi's husband, I'm mad. I don't care. And I'm a Democrat, so but I don't care. I throw the book at him. Change his name to Example. Uvalde is only a few miles from, my hometown of San Antonio, Texas. There's no words. There's no words. It's we are the hillbillies of the planet. We have to be the dumbest rich country on the planet. I mean, by far, because all the other countries that have gone through this and fixed it after the first bad example, we've had over 340 mass shootings since 2000 and over 1,000 dead in those 345 mass shootings, and we're still allowing it to happen. And we know it's like crap in, crap out. We know what the problem is. It's when you flood the market with guns, you're going to end up with a lot of unqualified owners. It'd be the same as changing the legal driving age from 16 to 10 with no testing, no scrutiny, no nothing, and saying, hey, you 10-year-olds, you're tall enough, some of y'all are tall enough to drive. Here's a car. Here's a car. You can afford it. We'll set up payments to where you can afford it too. And we flood the market with 10 to 15-year-olds out there driving with no qualifications, no testing, automatic licenses, You guys go drive these 4,000-pound vehicles around town. What's the worst that could happen?
Yeah, I agree. So I completely agree with all of y'all. The Nancy Pelosi thing, and I didn't mean to be facetious, but like I said, the only thing I caught from the article was he was driving a Porsche, and I was like, how stupid can you be? But anyway, I agree. The Southern Baptist Convention thing, who would have thought? Everybody knows I when I grew up in Texas, I remember one of my relatives told me, don't trust those Southern Baptists because they don't dance.
Yeah, what your relative doesn't understand, they don't dance in their home county. They always go
Exactly.
over where they're
Exactly. That's right.
They're more active than Jerry Falwell Jr. at a pool boy convention.
That's right. So, and the Uvalde thing, that's just, very heartbreaking. So, I'm sure we'll be talking about that. So we're going to take our first break, and then when we come back, we'll talk about our topic, which is why Pride Month is still needed. And we're also going to say goodbye to baby Trump Pinata and St. Bernie. They'll be leaving the show, and they'll come back at the end, so you can see more of us or hear more of us. So we'll be right back on Coffee and Pan Dulce. Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for watching our Coffee and Pan Dulce show every week. Don't forget, you can watch us visually on our video podcast platforms on Facebook and YouTube, but you can also listen to us on your favorite audio podcast platforms like Apple, Amazon, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and all of the other ones that your favorite, whatever your favorite is. Once again, thank you for watching us on Coffee and Pan Dulce. We'll dance out. All right, welcome back, everyone. So June the 1st is the start of International Pride Month. And it seems, I don't know, Jen, you can jump in, and Barb as well. It just seems like this Pride Month is really needed. It's because, we're post-pandemic, and all the hate bills that are coming out, here in North Carolina, they're proposed a Don't Say Gay bill, similar to Florida that was just proposed last week. So it just seems like we really need that, this at least I do. I don't know about y'all, but I need this. So I don't know, guys. So Jen, maybe you can give us a little history. Why Pride Month? Why do we? For those who may not be familiar?
We had a significant event in 1969 in late June, and the dates escaped me. I believe it was around the 28th. But in late June of 1969, we had what we called the Stonewall riots, and it was a really famous, well-known LGBT gay bar, and the police were constantly raiding gay bars, especially then. I mean, it does happen from time to time now. There's still a lot of controversy around that. It's one of the reasons the many prides don't allow law enforcement to march in the parade with a uniform on anymore, is because there's still a lot of contention between the LGBT community and law enforcement even today. But even more so back then, where they were openly, and many states had anti-gay, anti-trans laws on the books. Many of those laws didn't even go away as early as the 2000s. Most anti-trans laws started disappearing in 2015 to 2018, where I could be arrested for impersonating a woman and actually go to jail for that. And so there's pride for us, and especially what it's evolved to now, it's for me, it's like a family reunion and a homecoming and a parade all wrapped in one weekend or week-long celebration in most places. And it's just, especially for us, for people that have struggled with their identity, struggle with their mental health, which many of us do in our community. This is an uplifting, positive event that's got little 25-year-old men wearing chaps and glitter, and there's churches that come to this, and you see all cross sections of life. You see politicians, you see young and old. There's different kids events and bouncy houses, and stages with free entertainment here. And Charlotte Pride, which I'm wearing the official T-shirt. You just can't see it, but deal.
Oh, okay.
So
how'd you get one of those?
Well, this was a staff T-shirt, so
okay, all right.
And I think it was this is last year's. I think the new one comes out. It may already be out on the website. I haven't looked at the website.
Yeah.
I get invited to all the meetings. It organizes stuff like that.
So Jen, let me just kind of repeat what you said, because I think it's even I sometimes have a difficult time remembering this. In the late 60s and up until even the 70s, it was illegal to dance with a same-sex person, that you could actually get arrested, which is why the police were raiding these places. And my understanding is, if you kind of know the history behind it, you're right. They had been harassing this particular bar, and then they raided it one night, and they just had enough. And the drag queens really are the ones, right?
Well, you had transgender diverse that led the charge, which was Sylvia Ramirez.
Yeah.
I can see her face. I can see her face that broke the other day, because she was a woman of color. And they threw the first bricks back at the cop.
Yep.
There were several very queer cis lesbian women that actually held the door closed so people could escape out the back of stuff, while there's many stories of bravery. Because the original Pride really was a riot. The fighting back and police oppression. It wasn't what it's evolved to today. Is a plus years
a parade,
and then the next year it was called the Christopher Street Remembrance, I believe is what it was. And the name Pride evolved over time and switched from Christopher Street acknowledgement. It was a lot more of it was more of a protest form. It wasn't really a parade per se, where they just went down main streets in several different large cities in the United States. That went on for several years, and then it just started morphing into more of a celebration of life, more of a celebration and a memorial. And then, of course, many people know that another thing that hit our community was the HIV pandemic, which started in the late 70s and really went to its height in the 80s and even the early 90s, which gave Pride even a more significance, because just like this pandemic that we're kind of coming out of right now, for our community, that was our pandemic, especially a Christianized generation, because we were growing up and of age when the HIV pandemic was really at its worst. Like we knew people that died, and they would get a positive diagnosis, and the doctors were literally looking at them going, "You probably want to square things away, because you may not see next month, much less years." And so much wasn't known about it. And so Pride took a different form for a long time. And even more so made us appreciate life, made us appreciate community. And even to your point, even in the early 90s, if you were in the military and you got caught in a gay club in San Antonio, you could be brought up on charges and dishonorable discharge up until death.
I was going to tell you that in the early 90s, probably mid 90s, 93, 94, I was living in San Antonio, Texas. And we, where the Alamo is, behind it is this huge nightclub called Bonham Exchange. It's an old historic building. It's a 3-level nightclub, and it's a gay nightclub. But tourists go there and so forth. And we would have friends of ours that would come over to our, who were in the military, who would come to our house, and we would drive them because they couldn't take their own cars, because the MPs would go to the parking lot looking for their tags, and which would give them cause to go in if they thought someone was in there. And I look back at it and I go, I just can't believe that we actually, at the time that was just what you did, you know what I mean? And now I look back and I'm like, can you imagine if we, I just don't, I know that every generation says, well, the younger generation doesn't understand what we went through, so forth. So for me, that's one of the reasons that pride is still important, is because to remind people that, like we always say, freedom isn't free. You have to keep fighting for it, and it's just amazing that it was at one time, and I never remember this, but it was at one time illegal for two men or two women to be dancing with each other. That you could be, I just can't imagine.
Or sexual relations, So Texas, for example, had what they call anti-sodomy laws.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
it was overrun.
Of course,
overruled.
Of course, in many cases, especially in southern states, that would apply the law to target more well-known, or what you call political figures or influencers. And I know what got the Texas laws struck down was that a really well-known doctor that was gay, or that is gay, in Texas got arrested for sodomy.
They stormed into the apartment or something, right?
Yeah,
I remember that story. They actually stormed into the apartment, and
that's what got that struck down was a lot of cases like that, where they would take on somebody that's well known, a public figure, and try to embarrass them, when most of them were out of the closet, but try to shame them. And what started backfiring with these anti-gay, anti-trans laws is they would go to court, and of course you would win, because it's just stupid. It's something tantamount to something you would think of in the 1600s in the Salem witch trials. Just really stupid stuff that we shouldn't be seeing in the 20th or 21st century. But
So I have a question for you, Barb. I know you grew up around Chicago, right, or Illinois, right? I mean, I don't know how far you are from Chicago. What was, I don't know how do you ask this question? Was there a gay movement that you were aware of? Because,
Oh yeah.
I mean, like the big cities were for many years, LGBT people went to, because they felt safer in those cities. Like Charlotte probably would not have been a destination at that time.
I can't speak to Chicago, because where I grew up, we were like 70 miles northwest of Chicago. I mean, it was not close to us.
Yeah.
I know once I started to work, there were rumors about people, and you just, I didn't really know anybody. But when I started to work, we played softball. And it was a women's industrial softball league. And there were two teams that I'm like, oh, be careful when you slide into second base, it was the joke, because this girl I'd be like, hey, take a crack at her or something, but I mean, it was kind of a shock to me, but because until you see it, know about it, but and they were just blatant about it, and they didn't care. And the bar that sponsored us, some of the guys were like, oh, you gotta be kidding me, her? Oh no, really? they were like, really? And I said, you leave them alone. They could probably beat the crap out of you too, but it was an experience, but nice and very professional in their jobs and everything. But some of them unloaded trucks. They were all walks of life, and boy, if you got in trouble, they had your back. And my sister was bisexual. She died of MS in 2017, but a lot of her friends, I was surprised that my mother was so accepting, being such a devout Catholic. But it was her child.
Yeah.
And that was her first experience with it. And she, a lot of her friends, I didn't realize that until they got older, but it was a lot more common than I knew. And then when I moved away and moved to other cities and things, it just didn't even faze me anymore. I was comfortable with it, and I really can't say that my family was. But until we found out about cousins and things like that, it just coming from a holy roller devout Catholic family, it was not well taken, but now nobody even thinks about it. But it was stages where totally not acceptable. You don't talk about it. It's like ignored. It'll go away. It's not going to go away.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but it was something I didn't know a whole lot about until I got in my early 20s. So yeah.
Well, we're going to come back and keep talking about this, and we'll talk about maybe sharing your first, I think we said this last year, your first Pride experience, if those who have attended Pride. And we'll be back after our second break on Coffee and Pan Dulce. Hi, I'm Christian Cano. Thank you so much for joining us on Coffee and Pan Dulce. And also thank you so much for watching us on Facebook and on YouTube. But also don't forget, you can actually listen to us on your favorite audio podcast platform like Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon, Deezer, Podcast Addict, Podcast Chaser, and others. Once again, thank you so much for watching us and listening to us on Coffee and Pan Dulce. Have a great day. All right, well, welcome back. So, Jenny, I know last year we had a show talking about Pride, and we were kind of remembering the first Pride we ever attended. Do you still remember the first Pride you ever attended?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the first one I attended would have been Dallas Pride, just because it was at its early days in a lot of ways as far as the modern version of it. And I remember all the different cities I've been to for Pride, and then and even as I was coming out as trans and re-looking at Pride in a different way, attending as a male presenting person versus a female or genderqueer person has a different look as well. And so it's interesting. And I still look at Pride really the same way I always have, which is, to me, it's has an extra special meaning, obviously, because I'm part of the LGBT alphabet soup, and too, I'm a people watcher. I love the flair and flavor, and really just seeing not only the people that are really expressing themselves in so many different ways, but also the families and onlookers, the allies that go to this, and how excited they are to be a part of it, whether they're marching the parade, with a corporation or a church or a civic group, or they're just going to the festival and seeing all that, especially people that have never been to a Pride event at all. And this is their first one, and they're not in the LGBT community. Yeah, I get the universal thing that, this is what I expected, which always makes me think, do you guys think it was like an orgy?
Exactly.
Or a lot of debauchery? It's maybe later on, it'll be similar to Republican parties, cocaine and orgies. But during the day, if you remove the Charlotte Pride, for example, the name off it and call it a diversity festival or
June Fest,
June Fest. It's not overtly, in many ways, that much different than the other festival I've ever been to. Is because so much of it is food booths and it's just entertainment up on the stage, and it's not all drag queens. There's singers, there's dancers, there's a lot of community bands and things of that nature.
Churches and
there is a very, especially when you're talking about these big city prides like New York City Pride, Charlotte Pride, Chicago, these really, really large city pride where you're talking about hundreds of thousands of people, if not, some cases like New York City, millions. Like the 50th anniversary one in 2019, I think it was upwards of think it's 10 or 11 million people that came through there in 2 weeks.
Crazy. Yeah.
So you don't really fathom. Well, yeah, there are some uniquely LGBT facets to it, but it's not as aggressive or as adult as people that have never been to an event, and when they go, they're almost like they're disappointed. Like they're excited to hear the almost like, oh, well, it was a lot more tame than I thought it would be. I'm like, well, what do you think a parade would be like? Like all parades pretty much look the same in a lot of ways.
I mean, I
just has a little bit more rainbows in it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, the first parade I ever went to was in Dallas, Texas. I remember being so emotional about it because it was the first time I had been around so many people that were like-minded, and the churches were marching, and it was just, I remember just getting so emotional because it was like validation. It was like, oh my God, I'm not what people think, there are other people like me, and doctors, nurses, teachers, professionals, all kinds of, and so I think for young people, it's really affirming to go to Pride because they see, maybe they didn't have that validation growing up in their family. I know here in Charlotte, it's very, most big cities, it's very corporate sponsored, like here, the parades by Bank of America or something, the Wells Fargo stage, the Truist Bank, it's all corporate, right? I mean, so it's very corporate.
To put on an event once a year that size now, I mean, to have 200,000 people sweep through uptown Charlotte, which is our we call it uptown, but it's our downtown, our very tall building, shiny part of the city. And to accommodate that many people in primarily 2 days is a lot. Takes a lot of money to put that on. A lot of costs as far as security and traffic control and just barricading off a certain amount of space just to do a full blown 2 to 3 hour parade and a 2 day total festival with hundreds of vendors and representation. It's neither free or cheap. So corporate sponsorships, renting out the spaces so people can put up the little tents to represent their organization or business. We charge for that. That's and of course, our number one revenue, of course, is liquor sales. I mean, people come there. It's hot outside. It's a totally outdoor event, pretty much. Jenny, I agree with you. If you took the word pride, I know here in Charlotte, in most of the big cities as well. If you took the word pride about, it's really no different. It's just a funner festival. It's tamer than Mardi Gras. You're not going to see, and so if someone's expecting Mardi Gras, or in Key West, they have this thing called Fantasy Fest where they don't even dress at all, So if that's what you're expecting, you're not going to get that, And so if you have never been to a Pride and you go to it and you go, oh my God, this is fun, it's just a very jolt.
It's just like it's not that much different.
It's fun on a very PG Disney type level. It's not it's not salacious. It's not, you don't have to hide your kids' eyes like it's very family friendly. Both I know Charlotte Pride and many other prides that I've either volunteered for or gone to. I've never seen anything outrageous at a Pride organization. I mean, and honestly, as a community, we don't want that. We don't want to make it all about sexualization or fetishization of our community. That's
because that feeds into the stereotypes that people who are trying to,
because that's best left at private events and things like that. No matter what your sexuality is. There's those type of private events that cater to all kinds of stuff. But as far as the front facing deal, we want people to feel welcome, even if LGBT people are not welcome everywhere. And that's the whole meaning behind Pride Month, is the inclusivity, the intersectionality, and how we strive as a community, because we also, inside the LGBT community, we do have issues. You know, we have, you know, a small amount of people that are white supremacists. We have a lot of sexism and misogyny, and we suffer from the same things that the larger macro community of the United States suffers from. Inside our community, we do too. And all LGBT organizations strive to, or hopefully strive to, the ideal of being more inclusive, being more front-facing, and taking on the issues inside our own community.
So let's take our last break, and then when we come back, I just want to ask y'all, how do you feel about these groups that are that are like offended by pride festivals and stuff? You know, the ones that do they want to do straight pride and all that kind of stuff. You know, I mean, and there's a couple of them that are still out there. So we're going to take our last break, and this last break we'll talk about a show, speaking of pride, that comes on about 30 minutes after this one, and Jenny leads it. It's called Two Queers in a Truck. So it is the name of the show speaks for itself. So we'll take our last break, and we'll be right back on Coffee Pan Dulce.
Up next is Two Queers in a Truck with Jenny and Christian. And hope you guys tune in. We'll see you in about 15 to 20 minutes. Thank you.
All right. So that is actually a show called Two Queers in a Truck that Jenny leads, and it comes on about 30 minutes after this one on Wednesdays as well. So what do you guys, because, you know, we're going to hear this, you know, with all these hate bills being, we're going to hear people, that rhetoric coming up, you know, that, you know, we shouldn't have pride. And I what do y'all think about? I mean, any thoughts about that? Or
can I
Barb?
ask a question? Is the relationship with the police department better now in Charlotte?
I can not speak for Charlotte Pride, but I know what Charlotte Pride's policy is. And this had more to do, it's a yes and a no. Okay. Is the way I'll say it. So we hire, because we do reserve the space and we work with the city of Charlotte, Charlotte Pride has a phenomenal working relationship with the city of Charlotte. The city of Charlotte's been very accommodating on allowing us to shut down a bulk of Tryon, which is a major, you know, intersection artery in Charlotte, North Carolina, for people that aren't from the greater Charlotte area. It's a major street, runs right down the middle of uptown. And they also provide us the security, which is our local police department, the Charlotte CMPD. They have uniformed officers and people stationed all over. It's a very secure event. It's a very safe event. We've had no real questions of security. They take any threats, phoned in, internet, very seriously. And so that part of it has been really good. Since the George Floyd incident in 2020, I know many pride organizations, including Charlotte Pride, have asked the local law enforcement if they want to march in the parade not to wear their uniforms, especially queer people of color. That uniform represents a lot of trauma, a lot of unpacked trauma, a lot of trauma, because we're in all communities. You can be a queer, Black, transgender woman. You can be, Latinx queer people. It's not just a white male only thing. We have, and so many of these minority and affected groups have had law enforcement trauma. Even now, even more so now, and more awareness of it. So to stand in solidarity with many of those groups, and so we stand with y'all. We've just asked, if you want to march in the parade, that you just don't wear a uniform. Especially a gun. A gun and a badge represents different things to different people.
Sure. And that was a good question, Barb, because I know what you're asking, because this kind of occurred here in Charlotte. For those who are not who aren't from Charlotte who are listening to this, and I don't know if that's happened in the cities other cities. I'm sure other cities have done it as well. So what happened was kind of what you're saying, Jen, is that the Charlotte Pride Committee, the board or whoever, they had put out a statement saying that they, of course, would like anyone to march. But if you are a law enforcement, they just recommend that you not, or would ask that you not wear a uniform. And because I took it as, because it's not really about you. It's not about your,
Right.
it's about you supporting Pride. You know, it would be like if I was going to a wedding and the bride and groom, or bride and groom said, I'd like no one to wear shorts and flip-flops. You know, and you're gonna honor it. You're not gonna. No, it's about me. I want to wear short.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
You're not
it's
gonna,
just, that's
you're not
just,
gonna show
yeah.
up in a dog swimming suit and
Exactly.
crop top like
No.
Yeah.
maybe some chaps and some glitter. You know,
Yeah.
you. It's a very reasonable request.
Yeah.
There was some law.
I thought it was reasonable. Yeah.
They were a little upset. There was a few conservative people in our community that,
Mhm.
that complained about it. Which who really cares? Because the people that in our community complained about it are
Mhm.
idiots. And they're very insensitive to other people's trauma.
Yeah.
And me personally, I've got a massive amount of privilege.
Mhm.
You know, one, being white, two, being older, and having the privilege of making it into my 50s. You know, versus the average lifespan of a trans woman of color is not so much. Yeah. And so, you know, to me, I have to look at it a lens like it really creeped me out to see law enforcement in the parade.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Yeah.
And I don't really, I've had trauma with law enforcement officers. But as a community, white people don't face the same type of trauma that black and brown people, or black and brown neighbors do. And for me personally, I have to honor the journey they've been on. Sure. And that lived experience. I don't have to live it or completely understand it, but I absolutely should respect it.
Yeah.
And say to a certain profession, hey, we're not discriminating against you because of who you are or how you were born. Like, you're not born, you're not assigned police at birth. You know, you chose to go in this career.
Yeah.
If you would clean up your own industry reputation, including CMPD, which has had some very unfortunate incidents in recent history, you know, clean your house first. Get upset later. But address the issues. I mean, which is very timely considering what just happened to Baldy and how apparently there's some very compelling evidence that the police department mishandled the shooting altogether. And with many cities, we have seen over the last 20 years, but especially in the last 10, Ferguson, you know, the Atlanta shooting where three white guys cut down Arbery. And it took 5 prosecutors. The 5th prosecutor actually finally tried, convicted, when it was an open and shut case. There was enough security footage to see these guys literally triangulate and shoot this guy, unarmed black man, jogging while being black. And so, again, to honor the intersectionality, because the 2 people that really started our movement was 2 trans women of color, one black, one brown. And we have a history of white people taking over events or running events. And unless you're a white gay male, many times you're kind of on the outside. Even as a white trans woman, there's many times where I've been shut out of discussions, shut out of rooms.
Wow.
And it actually is the first real feelings of misogyny came at the hands of 2 white gay males in a pride organization in Texas, because they were creeped out by trans women, quote unquote. And so, and I was actually mansplained on how to do marketing as well, my 30-year-old punk. So,
well, no, I will agree with you, Jen. I think that, you know, our topic is why Pride Month is still needed. I think there's many reasons why, but I know as a gay man, it's been a journey for me, understanding all the letters of the alphabet, And I have grown. I hope I have grown over the last couple of years, because you and I have had conversations about certain things, and so I do think that it's a continued growing process. I've always said that I would like to see the day where we don't have to have pride. That the goal is to one day not ever having to have pride. I think we still want to celebrate, just like Italian Americans want to celebrate certain things, and Irish Americans and so forth. But
I think they'll always have a facet of pride that can change and evolve as wider and wider of acceptance of the community. If you look at the success of commercial endeavors like RuPaul's Drag Race, and how when you go to most good-sized drag brunches and drag events, especially locally,
it's
an audience is usually many of them are celebrating birthdays and or they have wedding showers there, and because it's festive and fun, and you got drag kings and queens doing outrageous lip syncing and dancing, and the costume and the pageantry, and it's just contagious. Even the straightest of dudes I've seen at these things have a blast because it's just a fun group of people, and I think that's why there's a lot of hate for our community, because there's a lot of jealousy. There's a lot of people that see us living our best life, and of course they can't come to terms with whatever's bouncing around in their little pea brain. So instead of just being happy for us and minding their own business, they get their pants twisted up about pride and what we're doing. And then they go around the corner and go see Pastor Mike at the Baptist church, and the rest is history. There's more debauchery going on in a Baptist church than there ever is at a pride event.
We've jokingly said on this show, and I know I have, I never thought I would live long enough to see the day where, am I saying this right? Cis heterosexual white men are afraid of gay people. That we are the man. That back in the day they would say, "Oh, the man's keeping me down. The man's keeping me down." It was usually the white guy, the man. There's a section of our population that is so afraid of us that they're like, we are now the man, and it's like
they're not really afraid of us.
Yeah, I know, but
they're afraid. They're afraid of their own internal, probably queerness or kinkiness. See queer people, they're like, that's it's like going on the keto diet for 6 months, and then walking into Manolo's bakeries and going, I'll take 10 of each of those things. You can't be afraid of temptation, unless you're tempted. I don't have a magic fairy dust where I can just sprinkle all of a sudden. You're going to be, doing show tunes and wearing chaps, to the office.
And that's what I think is such the success of Pride has been so successful, is because people who have never gone to Pride, and if they go to Pride and they see people and they're like, we have the same mow the grass. We have the same, there's not a lot of difference other than, maybe we're a little bit more fashionable. I don't know. I'm being stereotypical, but, there's not, I think sometimes they're afraid that we aren't that, they've been told that, this is what we are or whatever. And then they find out we're not. They're like, oh my God, we're actually
we've been living side by side.
Yes.
Next to our neighbors since Egyptian times, Roman times, Greek times, Babylon. There's tons of stuff that was on the Mesoamerican pyramids down in Central America about queerness. Egyptian is a common practice of bisexuality in Roman times. In fact, mostly the elite had what they called the Roman bathhouses, where it was just man on man time. and in their little splash pools underneath their big old houses. And there was to act like all of a sudden, we've got so much power that we're just grooming all these kids to come out as gay. I'm going, no, it's called the Google machine. And now instead of trying to sneak around and figure out why at age 10 I'm attracted to the boys and I just want to be friends with the girls, but I don't feel any spark that they think that I should feel. Yeah, to me, I'm not feeling it. And now you can just sneak off, or heck, nowadays 10-year-olds usually have phones. They can just say, why do I like boys and I'm a boy? And it can be something as innocent as that. Why do I like boys? Whatever it is, whatever a 10-year-old would say nowadays. And so a lot of conservative people fear people living their best life. They have that human tendency that many conservatives have, which is, I don't want to be left behind. I don't want to feel obsolete. And instead of just either modernizing their thinking, because a mind is a lot like a parachute, works a lot better when it's open.
Yeah, that's a good line. So, okay. With that, Barb, you have anything else before we wind down the show, our first show of June?
Fear, or they just don't know. They don't understand. They don't want to understand.
That's a big one. That's a big one.
I'm surprised that they're afraid. I guess I don't understand that.
I think it's the fear of the unknown.
I don't understand.
Yeah.
And I think they also know, being a conservative, they know how other conservatives view LGBT people. And if you are closetly gay or trans and you run in very conservative circles, you just know how the boys in the locker room at the golf country club talk about, Bob now is gay, he's got a boyfriend and everything, and how Bob got ostracized. And I'll say this real quick. I remember when Caitlyn Jenner did her first season of her show, and one of the most interesting, almost a shock, because she's very Republican, very conservative, and a member of a country club, and how she lost a ton of her friends there, how she was ostracized at this country club, and how shocked she was. One, because Caitlyn Jenner has a tremendous amount of money and a tremendous amount of privilege. I thought that her street cred from back in the day
would have carried over.
Which is, boom, hey, I'm a girl now. And thought that the country club would just completely flip over because it's gold medal winning Caitlyn Jenner. And they're like, oh no, you're the queer community now. We don't want your queer cuties in our locker room. And how she got treated initially when she first transitioned. And a lot of it's not just really the fear of the unknown, it's just the fear of their own shallowness, shallow nature, and how people, whether it's white supremacy, whether it is transphobia, homophobia, whatever, xenophobia, the different ignorances, every type of thing like that's based on some form of willful or woeful ignorance.
Yeah.
Well, I understand what a trans person is. You got access to a Google machine probably somewhere. Google it.
Yeah.
And if not, at the very least of human decency, just mind your own business.
Yeah.
That's exactly.
That play to shut up.
That is
so. Mind your own business. 360 degrees you can look in.
So Jenny,
a little degree here, and you don't like what you see, and you can't handle the rainbow and the flare that I have. There's 359 other directions you can look in. Just mind your own business.
That is what
I'm not going to your Klan meetings poo-pooing you.
Yeah.
Wearing some white sheets. Like I'm going, ooh, that's not a cotton.
So,
like how 80s of that is you. It just mind your own business, keep your hands to yourself.
That's,
The set out in kindergarten where the Kafudi rule of keep all hands and objects to yourself.
yeah.
A lot of people on the right side of the equation need to go back to kindergarten.
Well, I agree. I agree. And that is what drives the heck out of me as a native Texan, as Tejano, as someone who grew up in Texas. We were taught to be libertarians, to mind your own business, kind of to your point. And suddenly the state has turned into, they want to be in everyone's business. And so it's like, it's completely opposite.
Let's start putting into their financials.
That's right. Exactly.
Or their lifestyle, aka cocaine and orgies.
All right. Well, listen, this is our show. So we're going to go around the Brady Bunch screen and tell us where you're going to be between now and the next week. So looks like Barbara, you go first, and then Jenny, please.
I will be in Winston-Salem on Tuesday and Thursday, helping my friends up there, trying to keep it moving. We're trying to get things going, and I think things are calming down here in the neighborhood. Our friend's moving on the 30th, and so that's kind of sad, but she's super excited, so I guess that's a good thing. And I think things are just going to start to be normal. I'm not quite sure what that is, but I'm praying for normal.
Well, I'm going to be right back here in a few minutes as we drop our two queers in the truck, so you're going to get another dose of me and Christian, which is a lot of fun. I appreciate you, Barb, in being such a good ally to the community. You've always been as long as I've known you, I guess I met you when Tara started running for office, and we had our meetings at your house, and Art brought all that delicious vegan food as well, which I super appreciated, as being another weirdo vegan myself, and how gracious you and Art were always, and never as people that are running very white conservative circles have never doubted your allyship or your acceptance, which I don't know if I've never addressed this with you, but I do appreciate that. A staunch ally is always appreciated.
It's your business. You're good to me. I'm good to you. Get along. I mean, come on. Life's too short. It's like, come on. I don't get it. But
I will agree with you, Jen. We're very grateful to have people like Barbara, other people who you're very influential without you even knowing it. You know what I mean? And I appreciate you being on our show and being with us and giving up your time, because I think that it does mean a lot to other people to see the diversity that we have on here. And so I do hope that this Pride Month, we can try to come together. There's a lot of things going to happen this month. The Supreme Court ruling, this Uvalde shooting, all the January 6th stuff's going on. But for me, Pride Month going to Pride. It's like the one time that I just feel unified with people, and so that, and when I'm drunk at a sports bar. So it's the same feeling for some reason. I don't know what it. So, all right, I kind of digressed there. Yeah, I know.
But yeah, I think it's always nice to because there is more straight cis people than there are queer people.
Yeah,
and we have to live in this universe too. So it's always nice. I mean, most people just don't say anything to me, but it's nice to have unyielding allies that are the go-to people like you and Kira and Michael and Art and just I never doubt your allyship. I never go, I wonder if they really just can't stand me. Now, they may not be able to stand my personality. That's different. Like I my queerness doesn't usually bother me. Sometimes my over the top personality can be like sandpaper number 10. We won't even talk about Kristen at all.
But anyway, that's right.
You know,
All right.
but anyway, we won't pick on him now. But we do it. We should always be grateful and acknowledge the allies that just are good human beings. Like, we should acknowledge when people are good to people. And I find that you and Christian are both just really good friends of mine, and enjoy doing the show. And International Pride Month should be about celebrating life. We should learn our lessons with HIV. Hopefully we learn it with COVID is just don't be a jerk. It's
exactly.
You can be a nice person. That's free.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay, on that note, let's end. Just want to let you know the next week, our show is, we're going to talk about the Summer of Rage. That's what they're calling this summer. Women and allies like myself are going to be marching in the streets or standing up to make sure that women's reproductive rights are protected and codified in our laws. And I think that's going to happen all summer long. So we got a lot of great shows coming in June, and then July, and then August. So with that said, we're going to dance out, right? Here we go. Bye, y'all. Here's my pride flag. Happy Pride.
Thanks, Pride.
Okay. All right.
Hey, y'all, thanks for watching and listening to all of our kookery and stuff like that. And you're what makes our show stay on the air. Otherwise, we'd just be talking to ourselves, and we're not that interesting. All right, but anyway, happy Pride Month and happy June 1st. Bye.
Happy Pride.
Next up, thanks for watching Coffee Pan Dulce. Next up is Two Queers in a Truck. Stay tuned.